Have you ever been hungry? Like truly starving, the kind of hunger that makes you feel like you're going to die if you don't eat something immediately? Now imagine that hunger, but for human flesh. I know, sounds like a bad horror movie, but for Marc Sappington, that was just a regular Tuesday. This is one of those stories that makes you nervously laugh and question every "I'm fine" you've ever said out loud, because Marc wasn't a vampire from a movie. He was just a regular guy from a regular neighborhood, raised by a religious single mom, with a mind quietly falling apart. And one day he started hearing voices, and those voices weren't asking for prayer, they wanted blood. In this video, you'll see how a toxic mix of trauma, neglect, drugs, and spiritual confusion can turn someone into something not even demons want to hang out with. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize the real horror isn't in the monsters. It's in the silence before they're born. Some people follow their ego and already screw up everything. Now imagine following voices that tell you to eat people. Marc did. Not a spiritual guru, not a cosmic podcast, just his own mind, turbocharged by a drug that sounds like a soda, dank a cigarette dipped in embalming fluid and nightmares. He wasn't your cliché Tumblr goth vampire, just a regular dude who somehow thought intermittent fasting included human meat. Raised in church, sang in the choir, heard about the blood of Christ, and maybe took it all way too literally. The scariest part? Everyone thought he was normal. That good kid who hangs out with the wrong crowd. Classic line no one takes seriously. Marc didn't become a vampire overnight. He was devoured slowly by silence, by drugs, and by a society that treats spiritual breakdowns as lack of focus. Marc was born in one of those neighborhoods where you learn to pray before you learn to walk. Church bells by morning, police sirens by night. In the middle, a single mom juggling faith, hope, and 3 jobs. The dad? Gone before the baptism. A classic abandonment plot with gospel music in the background. The church was his first playground. Choir, Sunday school, all those pretty words about light and darkness. But here's the thing, no one teaches you what to do when the darkness is already inside your own head. While other kids played tag, Marc was pretending to be fine, hiding a growing storm. He was the type of kid you'd never expect trouble from. Not saintly, not dangerous, just invisible. Like most people, silently losing their minds. But silence doesn't stay quiet forever. Sooner or later, the voices start screaming. It started gradually. The choir turned into street corners, the Bible into cigarettes, and sermons into chemical whispers. Marc discovered danks, that weird name for embalming, fluid-soaked smokes. Yes, the same stuff used to preserve corpses, and he was puffing on it like it was morning coffee. And as with any good satanic cocktail, the dank came with a dash of PCP, a drug that turns reality into a psychedelic horror show. Hallucinations became the norm. Reality, a blur. That's when the voices started. Not from heaven, but from the edge of sanity, telling him to drink blood, eat flesh, or die. Funny how nobody notices when a young man's falling apart, only when he acts out. Until then, he's just a weird dude from the neighborhood. The spirituality that once anchored him had been replaced by a chemical ritual. And the saddest part? It wasn't even for pleasure, just to shut up the noise. Marc and his buddy Armando had a plan. They wanted respect, street cred, maybe a flashy car and a few orchid likes if that existed back then. The plan? Buy a rifle, threaten a car dealer, grab some cash, and roll out like they're in a Tarantino movie. They just forgot real life comes with blood. The idea was simple. Flash the gun, get the money, walk away. But Marc, floating in chemical clouds, walked into the dealership masked up and shot. Just like that. No reason, no plan. Pure impulse from a broken mind. The dealer collapsed. Marc didn't panic, he just walked away like the world already made no sense. Terry Green was a childhood friend. One of those dudes who drops by just to chill. But on April 7th, 2001, the voices picked him. Marc came home, saw Terry and thought, yep, he's the one. No drama, just blind obedience to the madness. Come see something in the basement, Marc said, like he was showing off a new video game. But down there, no games, just a knife, blood on the walls, and a former friend being sacrificed. He tried drinking the blood but got interrupted. The ritual was incomplete. The horror had only started. Marc wrapped the body, dumped it in a parking lot. That was it. Killing wasn't even shocking anymore, it felt like spiritual homework. A twisted redemption. And the worst part? He wasn't even close to rock bottom yet. 3 days later, Marc was back on the hunt. Not in the woods, in his best friend's backyard. High, paranoid, and hearing a countdown. Eat or die in 6 hours. His altar? The Phoenix family's home. Michael Weaver, the younger stepbrother, walked out wrong place, wrong time. Marc stabbed him so hard the knife went through. Michael tried to flee in a car but crashed. Marc tried to drink his blood again, interrupted. Delusion became habit. Kill, try to feed, run. He wasn't some elegant vampire, just a messy, desperate shell obeying voices. No symbolism, just raw desperation, dressed up as dark spirituality. Freddie Brown, 16, saw Marc as a big brother, so when Marc invited him to smoke some wet, he said yes. But Marc's basement wasn't just a basement anymore. It was altar, slaughterhouse, kitchen. Marc shot him in the back, drank his blood. This time, no interruptions. The voices went silent, briefly. Then they asked for meat. So Marc obeyed. He butchered the body, chewed it raw, got nauseous, fried it, ate it. Mission accomplished. He wasn't a man anymore, just a vessel for voices. The scariest part? He paused afterward, calm, like it was normal, like he just fulfilled some divine, rotten purpose. Marc went for a walk, maybe to digest, maybe to run, but he forgot one thing. The basement looked like a horror movie. Blood everywhere, body parts in bags, and the scent of something's deeply wrong. His mother came home from grocery shopping, saw the trail of blood, followed it down, found the nightmare. She'd raised this boy with hymns and sermons. Now she faced the ruins of it all in the form of fried flesh and sacred silence. She called the cops, of course, but here's the thing. The crime didn't start in that basement. It started years earlier when his mind broke and no one noticed. Now, finally, they were listening. Too late. In the interrogation room, Marc was silent for hours. Then he muttered, "Vampirism, cannibalism," like he was reading a restaurant menu. Cops froze. They expected a car thief. Instead, they got a blood-drinking ritualist. He didn't stop talking. He confessed it all. The murders, the blood, the meat, the voices, no remorse, no thrill, just an empty man explaining horror like he was reading expired medication instructions. What shook the cops most? No logic, no victim profile, just random targets. Marc's mind was a roulette wheel and the bullet was always chambered. Marc was officially a serial killer, but really he'd been a walking symptom long before. Untreated trauma, emotional neglect, hardcore drugs, and religion that only taught guilt, the perfect spiritual cocktail, served cold with a hint of formaldehyde. The story shocked everyone. Blood, flesh, headlines. But no one wanted to look deeper. Because to do that, we'd have to admit the human mind is fragile, and that society isn't equipped to catch it when it falls. The real question isn't, how did he do this? It's, how many others are one step away while we call it moodiness, laziness, or bad influence? Marc didn't become a monster overnight. He was ignored until he had no choice but to become one. So, how many voices have you been ignoring inside yourself? How many Marcs have passed through your life dressed as "I'm fine"? Because the scariest part isn't cannibalism, it's how we normalize breakdowns until they explode into tragedy. If this story taught us anything, it's that spirituality without self-awareness becomes superstition, and trauma without a voice becomes a monster. The question isn't if you'll break, it's what you're doing to keep yourself whole. If this made you think, do the basics. Like, comment what shocked you most, and subscribe. Because in the next videos, we'll keep going down the spiral, but with more awareness, a bit of sarcasm, and hopefully, less blood.